We hear the stories of abuse, divorces, failed marriages, and these incidents unfortunately are increasing. And hearing all this, going through all these scenarios, the Muslim youth is very discouraged towards marriage, especially when we live in this modern Western society where haram is much easier than halal. And the ease of all this, like living in relationships, the fear of losing like half of your hard-earned assets, right, if you go through a divorce. But despite of all this, how can we still convince our next generation about the positive aspects of marriage despite facing all the challenges?
In a situation like this, there's a lot of fear from the men towards the women, and there's a lot of fear from the women's side towards the men. They have no idea what they're getting in return. A lot of times the men don't know what they're getting in return. And I think that this requires a lot of research prior to getting married. I think that it is society and the way society has set up certain things that has discouraged a lot of people. Like, for example, if you look at the times that were before, it was a very male-dominated society. There was a lot of patriarchy. And as Isaac Newton says, that every action has an equal opposite reaction. And I think that in the name of like feminism and standing up for women's rights, I think there has been such an opposite reaction that has taken place that now if you go to the court systems and so forth, they're just so women favored that now men are thinking like, where do we stand in all this? You understand? There's been an opposite reaction. And as a result, and then there are a lot of men who are like, I just don't even want to get married. And so I think what needs to happen is that, first of all, there has to be a lot of education within our own community, that what are the right ways to handle issues, what are the wrong ways of handling issues. Often you will find that, especially when it comes to like divorces, you'll find men running towards those options that will give them the upper hand. A lot of times you'll find women trying to run towards those options that will give them the upper hand. They don't care about what is right and what is wrong. They care about, I want to come out on top.
What I'm getting out from it.
What am I getting out? And I want to make sure that if I'm going to get out of this marriage, if I'm going to get something, I want to make sure I get more than him or her. You understand? So I think that the society and the way things have unfolded, unfortunately, it is exactly that has caused a lot of fear and anxiety within a lot of men and women in getting married. That's why part of what I do also is that I always recommend people that go and get, premarital counseling done. Of course, you have to get premarital counseling done because there's a lot of things that come up in premarital counseling that would probably not come out if you just sat there together. And by the way, like when women come to me too, and they would tell me like, my daughter, like I've had a lot of like women come to me and they're like, my daughter's about to get married, or I have fathers that my daughter's about to get married and what do I need to look out for and so forth. Or even, the parents of the boy they will come to me and they're like, what do we need to look out for? And I was like, you have to first look at what was the dynamic of that family. You understand? I mean, if there was abuse happening in that family, then there's a strong chance that those kids have picked up abuse. And they don't realize that it's abuse. They think that it's absolutely normal. It comes with, the family package, but they don't realize that they're doing something that is wrong. So I think there has to be some research. I always tell men and women that if the husband-to-be is someone who is extremely loyal to their mother, keep your daughters far away from that kind of a man. I'm just being honest.
That's very interesting.
Because what happens is that they put their mothers above their family.
Well, also there's a family system there too, where a lot of times where you have emotionally distant, withdrawn fathers that did not give the mother the love, the respect that she needed. The eldest son or the son of the family ended up being the pseudo husband, right? So he fulfilled the mom's emotional needs, the companionship that she wanted, and went with the son. So now the son is now not only loyal to the mom, but the mom has like, I can't let go of my son.
Yeah.
So it ends up being like a really big fitna
Is
type
it
of relationship.
mama's boy?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
But there's a mama's boy, and then there's like but then there's like it's a different level of mama's boy, right? It's like my mom's alone. We gotta go. Like we can't. Like mom calls. They're like, my mom's crying. I gotta run. Right? There's a different level. Like I can love my mom and favor my mom. Right? But am I gonna drop everything at the top, at like the drop of a knife to go like, oh my God, my mom needs me. We gotta go. Right? It's like it's an extensive point where it's like we're on a date and your mom's with us. Right? Like there's a level of like extremity that goes with it.
I think that, and I agree. And what happens is that a lot of our men don't understand the difference between love and respect. Mm-hmm. One is to respect your mother. There's no question in our deen that respecting your parents is paramount, is extremely important. There is no ands, ifs, and buts when it comes to respecting parents. But what does that respect mean?
Not listening all the time.
Well, respect does not mean
Sometimes it's
respect
equated to
does not
listening.
mean unconditional obedience. You see, they don't know that difference. And that's why you'll see a lot of times that you'll find, I've seen a lot of times mother-in-laws, they would be like, if the daughter-in-law even just disagrees, she not disrespect her, just disagrees, they will say, right away, they attacked her akhlaq just because she simply disagreed. And I go back in our deen, it is absolutely allowed to disagree with each other. The Prophet ﷺ, he's sitting there after the Battle of Badr. He's asking Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, what should we do with the prisoners of war? He's asking Umar radiallahu anhu. Umar radiallahu anhu disagreed with the Prophet ﷺ. Did the Prophet ﷺ was he offended? No. There was a time where Umar al-Khattab came to the room, and he's standing outside their room, and he's hearing the Prophet ﷺ and his wives, they're going at it. Like they're talking to each other. The Prophet was talking, they're talking back. But you see, in our culture, that many of us we come from, if the wife even responds back, they're like, "Dekho, isne samne jawab diya." You understand? They don't know the line between what is disagreement and what is disrespect. Anything that can make you uncomfortable is classified as a disrespect. And that's where we don't understand those kind of things. So going back to your initial question, that I always tell people, make sure you do your due diligence. Also, if the woman is too attached to her mother too, that's a major problem. So that's why we have to, I tell people, you have to go through premarital counseling. But then additionally, I tell people all the time, you must have a prenup prior to getting married in this day and age. Now, people often will ask me, the very first thing that people ask me is having a prenup Islamically permissible? And I say, absolutely, it is permissible. Well, then we get to the next step, which is often asked, is that, well, a prenup is mostly about a divorce. How do you handle your assets financially if there's a divorce that were to occur? So a lot of times you will have people who will be like, Imam Sahab, abhi to nikah bhi nahi hua hai, and you're talking about a divorce. I mean, they're not even married yet, you're talking about a divorce. Like, how is that setting you up for success? And I always give them the example that, look, when you pay money to insurance companies, you're not paying money to insurance companies because you want to get into an accident or you want to get sick. You give money to these companies because you are protecting yourself, God forbid something happens. You understand? So this is prevention. It's a prevention method.
Right.
And so you are protecting yourself in the case that there's a divorce, because when there's a divorce that happens, we find, based on what I've worked with in the past, is there are times where men just want to walk away and not give the huquq and give rights to their wife, fulfilled his responsibility by giving child support, anything of that type. They just want to walk away, which is absolutely wrong. And a lot of times you'll find the women, they want to go in court and just take half of everything, or take away the kids and so forth, which is also wrong. So that's why our deen has taught us how to handle all these kind of issues. But all the education has to be given prior to marriage. If you know what you're getting into, and what Sister Madhya was saying earlier is that this idea of rushing. There are times when people have come to me and they're like, well, the boy's family is rushing. They're asking us over and over again. I'm like, if they are rushing, say no. Now, another greater problem that we do have in our community is, just like it is difficult to find, I'm saying this in both ways, it is difficult to find good guys nowadays, and it's difficult to find good girls nowadays. And so the thing is that now what happens is that because girls are pushing, they're kicking the marriage can down the road. The guys are doing the same thing. They can't find someone who they like a lot, someone who matches their personality. So then what happens after a while, then you just feel like, okay, you know what, let me just settle with anything. So now a lot of times the girls' families will be like, rishta aaya hai, and kafi der ke baad rishta aaya hai, and finally there's something. And I keep on telling them that, look, if it's not good, then you don't feel compelled that I need to get into a marriage.
It's better not to get in.
You rather not get into a marriage than to get into a marriage, and then psychologically you're going to go through challenges, you'll go through emotional challenges, you're going to regret your decision. And then especially the most disturbing things I usually hear from families is, we've been having problems from day one, but we have like 4 or 5 kids. Like,
Right.
why does that even happen to begin with? When you have major problems, before you even bring life into this dunya, you need to, husband and wife needs to be on the same page. They have to be getting along. If you can't get along, how are you going to sit there and raise your kids?
And some say that lately, especially in the last couple of decades, the expectation has gone too high, both from the
Absolutely
men and
there
women's
is.
side.
Oh, absolutely there
So
is.
is it wrong to have high expectations?
I believe so. I believe so. I mean, Sister Malia can shed light on from a psychological perspective, but I've always read about this, that you can have standard expectations. There's nothing wrong with having expectations, but to have an overwhelming amount of expectations and lofty expectations, because whenever people come, they're like, oh, I have a problem with her, or I have a problem with him. Okay, where's this coming from? Well, I expected her to do this, or I was expecting that she would understand in this way.
So it's better to have more realistic expectations than very optimistic.
Exactly.
And then again, I would like to get your opinion too, but also would like to know if, as Imam mentioned, the early intervention, like the prenup counseling or counseling at very early in the stages of marriage, how much that helps. There kind of a data or kind of a practical experience that you can share that so many marriages can be saved or has been saved.
So like when I do premarital counseling, what it allows people to do is have the tough conversations ahead of time. So we talk about division of labor, we talk about roles of a husband and a wife, we talk about finances, what that looks like, we talk about family systems, what your previous family of origin looks like, we talk about any stuff in the past that happens, and then we talk about expectations and reality versus what you thought was going to happen. So premarital counseling can give you that place to have a safe area where we can have these tough conversations that allow you to kind of navigate some of these questions that you may have.